when the communication between this generation breaks due to lack of understanding or maybe the tolerance or acceptance or whatever. So that generation gap is what the poet is talking about over here. Whatever may be the situation, whatever might be the sorrow that the father has in his mind, he is ready to give up everything. They want to forgive each other, they want to respect each other's difference is what the father says. Antithesis, that is two contrasting ideas put together. Hello everyone, a very warm welcome to all the young minds of class 11 CBSE. I am Dr. Shalini, your English teacher at Prep School. Today we are here to understand one of the poems written by Elizabeth Jennings, that is Father to Son. Let us see what is there in today's session. We are going to understand about the poet first, then the theme of the poem, then we'll understand the summary. At last, we will go for the literary devices. So let us start with the introduction of the poet. So Elizabeth Jennings was a very famous English poet who wrote intensely about personal matters in a very plain spoken language so that it will reach to all the sectors of the society. So she spoke about some traditional issues also, then the objective style, and her poems frequently reflects the devout of Roman Catholicism and the love for Italy. These are the main themes of her poetry. So A Way of Looking actually won her the Somerset Maugham Award for her. It was published in the year 1955. So some of her best works that have come out of poet is After the Nervous Breakdown. Aftermath, she has given lot of wonderful poems. She also published poetry for children. So this is a very small introduction of Elizabeth Jennings. Let us start with the summary of the poem. This poem talks about the generation gap. So the father is talking to the son over here. So this talks about the generation gap that is there. When the communication between this generation breaks due to lack of understanding or maybe the tolerance or acceptance or whatever. So that generation gap is what the poet is talking about over here. The poem reveals the internal conflict that is there between the father and the son, that is the two generations. So his son grows up and possesses his own interests, his own ideas, his own perceptions, everything. So it is two different individuals that the poet is talking about. Okay, so the son is developing his own interests. So everything will be different from that of the fathers. So that is what is taking place over here also. Then respecting each other's difference is the only way out. So in order to get out of this difference, we have to respect each other's difference here, and the distance between the generations actually reduces when we start respecting each other's interests. Okay, so this is what the poet talks about in this poem. So let us start with the summary of the first stanza. So I do not understand this child, though we have lived together now in the same house for years. I know nothing of him, so try to build up a relationship from how he was when small. So you can notice over here the father is talking about the son. Okay, so as the title also says, the father to son, the father is telling about his son, how he is not able to understand his son is what he is trying to say here. I do not understand this child. That means it is not a child he is talking about. He is talking about his own son. He shows that love and affection towards his son by using this word child. Okay, because for that father it is his child only. Though he is grown up, he shows that love and affection. That's why he calls him as a child. Though we have lived together, that means the father and son, they both have lived together. Now means till now, in the same house for years. So they have lived there for so many years. You can notice that the sentence ends here. Okay, I know nothing of him. So he has lived with the son for many years, but now he knows nothing of him because he has grown up, he has developed his own ideas, his own perceptions. We are talking about the son here. Okay, so the son has developed his own ideas, his own perceptions, his own interests. So his liking is different that of the father's. Okay, so here you can see the father knows nothing about the son. So try to build up a relationship from how He was when small. So from how he developed the relationship when he was small, like that only, now he is trying to build up a relationship. That means he has to start from the beginning. Okay, so from when he was small, he tried to understand the small interests, the small likings of his son, and he had reached the stage. So now he has to start from there, because now he is totally changed. Now whatever he knew about his son was actually wrong. Now it is already gone, it is outdated, you can say. Okay, so here the father has to start from the beginning to understand about his son. That is what he says. Now, we know the summary of this first stanza. Let us understand about the other aspects here. So, can you identify if there are rhyme scheme, if there is a rhyme scheme over here? You can notice that child build is rhyming. Now, no is not rhyming at all. So, you can, and also it ends over here. The sentence ends over here. So, that means it is enjambment that we are looking at. Okay, the sentence ends somewhere in between, so that is enjambment, and there is no rhyme scheme, so you can consider that it is written in free verse. Most of the poems you have read this, they're all written in free verse actually. Okay, so these are the two literary devices you can see over here. Okay, let us move on to the next stanza. Yet I have killed the seed I spent or sown it where the land is his and none of mine. We speak like strangers, there is no sign of understanding in the air. This child is built to my design, yet what he loves I cannot share. Now you understood that there is some difference between the father and the son. So the father doesn't know much about the liking of the son. So that is what he continues speaking over here. Okay, so yet I have killed the seed I spent or sown it where the land is his and none of mine. So he is telling about the person he has brought up. So here he talks about the seed I spent. That means he compares this seed to the son. So he is wondering whether he is his own son. Is he the person whom he brought up all these years, is what the father wondering. Now he has brought up his son, but now he says that he doesn't even bother about it. The land is his and none of mine means, is this the person I have brought up? Is he my own son? He doesn't resemble me at all. So he is talking like that. No interest of his matches that of the father. So he is wondering whether he was the person who he brought up. We speak like strangers. That means the father and the son, they are like strangers. Like the first time now they are talking to each other. So because he has to develop that relationship from the beginning now. So he acts like stranger only. They both act like strangers only. They are not known to each other is what the father says. There is no sign of understanding in the air. That means in the air means he is talking about the environment at home. So there is no way in which there is understanding there between us. That means there is no clue that the father knows about the son. So there is no understanding at all that is seen. This child is built to my design, yet what he loves I cannot share. Here you can see what he loves I cannot share. That means whatever I give he doesn't like, or whatever he likes I am not able to afford, is what the narrator or the father is trying to say here. This child is built to my design means I have brought him up, I have made him to fit my design, but he is not ready to accept what I give. I am not able to provide whatever he is liking, is what the father says. By saying this, the father says that physically the child may resemble him, but mentally or the character wise, the child is no way near to that of the father's, is what the father is trying to say over here. So this is the second stanza that we learned. Here also you can notice that there is no rhyme scheme at all. So you can conclude that there is no rhyme scheme for this poem. The whole poem is written in a free verse. Okay, let's now move on to the next stanza. Silence surrounds us. I would have him prodigal, returning to his father's house, the home he knew, rather than see him make and move his world. I would forgive him too, shaping from sorrow a new love. So this is the third stanza. Here the father says that silence surrounds us. That means there is no talking only in between us. We don't talk to each other. That is because of the difference that we have in between us. The interests do not match. So obviously they don't feel like talking to each other. So silence surrounds us is what he is telling over here. Now there is no communication at all. So you can conclude that there is no communication at all. Silence surrounds us. They are not talking to each other. I would have him prodigal. Prodigal, hope you have heard about that story, the prodigal son who runs away from house. So that one he is talking about. So I would have him prodigal. Probably he would run away, returning to his father's house. Again he would come back to the father's house, the home he knew, because he has nowhere to go. He comes back to the father's house only. Rather than see him make and move, even if he runs away, I want him to come back to the father's house, because I don't want him to go on his own. I don't want him to go away from my house and make his own world. I don't want him to set up a new world for himself. I want him to be with me. Whatever it is, I want him to be with me. I would forgive him to shaping from sorrow a new love. So the father is ready to forgive the son also. So he is ready to forgive him also, shaping from sorrow a new love. So here he is trying to tell that whatever it is, even if he is ready to develop that love towards the son, even if he has sorrow in his mind also, the father is ready for that also. So here you can see that in this stanza, you can see that the father is not ready to let his son go away from him at all. Whatever may be the situation, whatever might be the sorrow that the father has in his mind, he is ready to give up everything. He is ready to tolerate everything, and he is ready to take his son back to him. He is ready to accept his son, is what the poet says in this stanza. Okay, so here it shows the father's love towards the son. Next, going to the last stanza here. Father and son, we both must live on the same globe and on the same land. He speaks, I cannot understand myself why anger grows from grief. We each put out an empty hand, longing for something to forgive. So he is talking about the relationship of father and son, how it has to be. Now how it will be between us. He is talking about himself and his son over here. So here the poet indirectly tells that they have to forgive whatever the difference it is between them. Whatever the difference is there, that they have to respect is what the poet is trying to say. So father and son, both of them, they should be ready to forgive each other. They are supposed to live on the same globe. They'll live over here only, isn't it? They are going to live on the same earth and the same land. On the same earth, they are going to live in the same house they are going to live, because the father is not ready to let go of the son. He speaks, that is, son speaks, I cannot understand myself. So he is telling that he is not able to understand why anger grows from grief. When you are at sorrow, then you may become angry. So anger grows from sorrow. So if you don't communicate, the sorrow will increase, and obviously that will turn into anger. So that is what he is trying to say. We each put out an empty hand. Now there is nothing for them to forgive, but still they are longing for something to forgive. They want to forgive each other. They want to respect each other's difference, is what the father says. The father is ready to do anything for the son. So here, since they are ready to forgive each other, now the confusion arises. What is it? Now, whether the son has to ask for forgiveness, or the father has to go and talk to the son, telling that he would forgive his son. So because of who will start this process of, who will initiate this process of forgiving each other, so that is what matters now. Neither of them is ready to go and ask for forgiveness or ready to forget here. So what the confusion arises is that who is ready to go and who is ready to start the process. So that confusion, the poet ends the poem over here. Altogether, if we come back to the summary, it is that the lack of communication actually causes a difference in between the father and the son. This in turn gives rise to generation gap. Okay, so in order to let go of this generation gap, or in order to forget these differences, what they have to do, they have to respect each other's differences. They have to respect each other's interest, whatever is there between them. Okay, so in that case, they can survive harmoniously in the same place where they are staying now, like strangers. So now they should be ready to give up on their ego, is what it matters. Okay, so this was the summary of the father and son. There are few literary devices that we have to understand. There are 4 literary devices here other than enjambment and free verse. There are 4 more here. Let us understand what is antithesis first. So antithesis is a literary device wherein two opposing ideas, two contrasting ideas are put together. So two contrasting ideas put together. So here let me give you an example for this when we come to the poem. Here you can see the two contrasting ideas, that is the lines. Shaping from sorrow the new love. So here you can see first of all that person is in sorrow. Okay, so whenever a person is in sorrow, something new cannot be developed. But here the poet is telling he is shaping a new love from that sorrow only. Okay, so he has grief in his mind, but he is ready to develop that love towards the son. He is ready to love his son, then the son will start loving him again. So that is what the poet is trying to say over here. And this is antithesis, that is two contrasting ideas put together. So you can see this contrasting, that is antithesis, in one more line, that is in the first stanza. The land is none of mine. So that when the land is his and none of mine, so that also is a contrasting idea. So the land is his and none of mine. So then we have alliteration. Alliteration is the repetition of same sound in the beginning of the words. So you can see over here, for example, it is silence surrounds us. So here silence surrounds us. Here you can see the beginning, that is sir sound, is repeated. Okay, so this way there are many places in which you can see this alliteration. That means the beginning there is a repetition of sounds. Okay, then we come to metaphor. Metaphor is a comparison. This is that. That is how they compare it. Okay, so metaphor is nothing but a comparison. Something like simile only. Simile uses the words like as and like, whereas metaphor doesn't use those words. Okay, so let me give you an example for metaphor here. So here there is a comparison that is made between two unlike things, and as I said, this is that. Okay, so here you can come across this example. Suppose you can say this, we live on the same globe and the same earth. Okay, so that globe and earth, that comparison is the same, means he is talking about the same thing. This is that, this is that. So that comparison he is making. So you can see that globe and earth mention is there. So that line you can see as an example for this metaphor. Okay, so then we have synecdoche. So now synecdoche talks about something that is used to represent the whole. Okay, some small thing that is used to represent the whole. So this you can come across when you have this sentence, make and move his world. So this is like the whole world. He is using a small thing, that is he is talking about the son. Okay, for a father his son is his world, but his son, he is going to create his new world. He is going to create his own world. So that is what he is talking about. So make and move his world means he is using that son in order to show that world. Okay, so he is going to create a new world for him. That small thing is going to create the big thing for himself. So that is what the poet is trying to say over here. So these are the literary devices that are used in this poem. I have just given you few examples here. There may be other examples also, that is alliteration also. There may be many examples. Metaphor also, there may be another example. So I have just given you one example here. You can just look for other examples in the poem. Okay, so with this we come to an end of this summary. Just go through the summary, then listen to the video, then you can just read the poem and understand it better. Let us discuss the question answers when we come for the live class. So thank you for your time. Keep learning. Let us meet shortly. Take care. Bye-bye.